And this is Chris from Brothaspeak Podcast, where we discuss Black LGBT issues and topics, and we are continuing our conversation with part 2 of HIV stigma within the Black community.
But speaking on the stigma, since that's what we're here talking about, clearly you just saw a display since I untagged myself on his live. That is the power of stigma. And I also heard something while you were speaking, or it was a comment that came from the audience when it was the young men, young black men, 17 to 29 are the new highest rates of it. And I heard a comment that said, because they loose. And in my body, I was just on fire. I wanted to grab the mic. I was on fire. Everybody has sex. Everybody here has sex. Unless you're asexual, you have sex. And when it comes down to it, you never know what a person is going through in life. You never know if they got it through a needle, through a transmission, through their lifestyle. You never know what a person's story is. The story of a person is not who they are. Right. People have to get that through their minds. Just because of what I did doesn't make me who I am. Right. What you see before you, a person who is an operations manager over an entire airline, you never know the things that I've been through or the things that I did in order to get to this spot and see who I am talking to you in this moment. So the judgment and the stigma has to stop, and it has to stop with you. It doesn't stop with just these conversations. It stops with you checking your privilege and checking yourself every time you open your mouth or every time you think a thought. And that comes down to also when we talk about race and gender, etc., everything. That's my piece.
All right. Jamal, I have one question for you. So we've talked about the fact that it's black gay men in that age, that very young age group, like 17 to about 29, where we're seeing the highest incidence of HIV. In fact, that's the only area where the numbers are actually going up. So if we were to create a high-impact HIV intervention program to specifically target those men, what does it need to look like?
Okay, so you asked me this before I even sat up here, and I've still been in my head, in the back of my head, like I'm nervous as hell because I come from I guess a different. When you were speaking about the advocacy that you guys used to do. Back in the day, you can say back in the day.
Back in the day. We all.
Because when I came out, it was easier to gain access. And this is what I've been thinking about. It was easier to gain access to black gay men or black gay individuals because we all met at the same place at the same time on the same days. Everybody saw everybody, and it was a thing for us to get to that spot or get to that place just to have camaraderie or fellowship with each other, whatever the hell we were doing, drugs and all kind of craziness. But now, due to the impact of social media, everybody has flocked to these Facebook groups, sex groups, Instagram. So it's harder to gain access. I think that's where we're losing it, the access portion.
Maybe that's the answer.
And maybe social media is the answer in order to gain momentum, but it has to be some sort of attractive, because social media is instant gratification. Right. So it's so instantaneous that we all do it. We flow through Facebook, and first we're happy. We see a cute little cat. Then we're sad because we see, oh my God, somebody got shot today. And then we're angry again because we see Trump. Or then I think what has to happen is possibly going in the avenue of, I don't know if you know about clickbait, but basically clickbait is articles that people put on social media, and when you're scrolling through and you see an article, you're like, oh my God, but the headline catches you. It doesn't have to be the full story. It's just the headline. They just take a little excerpt and they're like, oh, the sky is falling today. And you're like, the sky is falling. No, the sky isn't falling. We tricked you, but now since you're reading this, you have to read it. Yeah. So I think that may be a way of gaining access to those young men.
Okay. I like that on social media. Yeah. Okay, you heard that? Okay. Right here.
So, the conversation that we were having today and the purpose that all of us are here is to break the stigma in the Black community. But two people on the panel talked about not having the stigma. One person, the way that he worked around the stigma was to displace himself from it. I guess my question here is, how do we break the stigma? Since we're here to talk about that subject, how do we break that stigma? Because everybody's story on the panel was great, but most of it did not talk about the stigma itself and how to eradicate it from the Black community.
Okay, so I know Lorenzo wants to answer this question too, so I'm going to be really brief. But I believe that conversation, education, one of the reasons that I said that maybe they talk about me behind my back but never to my face is because I'm up front with it. Like, I put it out there. I put it out there as a conversation piece. I had some T-shirts at one time that said, I have HIV. And on the back it said, if only it were that easy to tell. And I will wear that T-shirt sometimes just to get a spark out of people, just to see what people's reactions were going to be, and just to start conversations. I believe education is the key. In my family, we talk. I educate them, they educate others. And so I think that is what demarginalizes stigma. My motto is love is greater than stigma. So,
if I may ask a question to that, if we need to talk about the conversation, do you feel that we need to broaden who we're speaking to? Because I would feel like in this room right now, our panel is full of people who are combating HIV. But where are the people that are holding the stigma? How are we talking to them? Where are they in the crowd? Where are those individuals? Because those are the ones that need the communication or the education.
We have a couple.
You've had your hand up.
Okay.
My name is Takesha, and I'm friends with Yolanda, and I'm not HIV positive. And before I met her, like, I was one of the people that I'm not going to eat off your plate. I didn't know what it was. But through knowing her and her being open and honest, I was able to learn about it. Mm-hmm. And I find myself telling people about it. So when I run into people and they have incorrect information, I'm able to correct them. Mm-hmm. There was a program called Sister. And they don't have the funding anymore, I guess. But what they did was they brought ladies into a room, positive, negative, and we talked about being assertive rather than being aggressive. Mm-hmm. And it was really sad because the young girls that would be a part of this group, they would ask the older people, why didn't you just tell us? But we don't have a forum to tell them. Like, we're sitting here, but like the places that you would think that they would talk about it, they don't. Right. Mm-hmm. And when you hear about it, people like hush up. But like when you go through recovery or when you go through programs or when you go, that's when you learn about it. Right. And we need to be out of the program and then talking to the public. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think one of the things, as Yolanda was saying, it's about education. It's about educating the community, but it's also about educating the people that are not in this room. Right. Because so many programs that I've gone to that the health department, other organizations have implemented in our communities, when I look around the room, we're preaching to the choir. We're continuously talking to each other, so we need to go outside of that box. So an example with our program with the Kiki Project, our guys, they do outreach. So they go into the community, they go on Sistrunk and other parts of the community where people are not talking about HIV from that perspective. So that's one way of actually doing it, to go into those type of communities, whereas you can talk about HIV and you can educate the community about it, and they can ask the questions, because a lot of times they're not going to ask their doctor about it. They're not going to ask other people about it. They're not going to have opportunities to ask people about it. But if you're on the street doing outreach like we did like 20 years ago, going door to door, talking to the community, going under the tree where black people hang out, going to the barbershop, talking to those people, that's how you're going to get the information out. You're not going to be able to do it sitting behind the desk. You're not going to be able to do it only through social media, because some people don't believe in social media. So social media is a part of it. That's one avenue. But we need to have multiple avenues and multiple strategies in terms of how we get that information to our community. And we have to continuously remember that the black church is a part of it. But you can get the information to the church. It goes from the pulpit to the pews to the pavement. Because what happens is that if a minister talks about something in his church, grandma's going to go home and talk about it with her grandson who doesn't go to church. So he's going to get that message from the church. So a lot of people say that the black church is not, they don't necessarily have the reach that they used to, but they still have a lot of power in the black community, because a lot of people, they're going to hear that minister. And one of the things we need to do is to have more of our conversation with the ministerial alliances in our community, so we can get the churches more involved.
Yeah, I just got to interrupt. Mm-hmm. We could sit here all night and talk about HIV, but it's not HIV, it's the culprits underneath HIV.
Yeah.
The first culprit underneath HIV is homosexuality.
Amen.
This disease has always been associated with gay men.
Amen.
Boom. And if we don't come to terms with that, we can't have a conversation. Amen. Secondly, this disease has always been associated with substance abusers. Boom. So if we don't talk about substance abuse, we're not talking about HIV. Mm-hmm. And when people talk about the stigma of HIV, they're talking about homosexuality, they're talking about substance abuse, mm-hmm. They're talking about people who are undesirables in our society. We've got to raise that conversation to another level. Exactly. And all the undesirables with HIV and all their alliance, brothers and sisters need to have the conversation whole. HIV is not unknown to not a single person in America. There have been more movies, more commercials, more this, more that, more documentaries about HIV probably than any other disease known to man. However, the stigma around homosexuality is alive and well. The stigma around substance abuse is alive and well. The stigma around racism is alive and well. The stigma around sexism is alive and well. And as long as those other stigmas lie dormant in the conversation about HIV, we will never open the door to a larger conversation about the health of America and the role that HIV impacts. Truth. 1.4 million people are impacted by HIV. There are 10 million people impacted by hepatitis C. And there's even more impacted by other diseases, cancers of all kinds. So this is a small epidemic, by and large, in the face of all the other health conditions out there in the world. But it is homosexuality, it is substance abuse, it is poverty, and it is all the other isms that make this a difficult conversation to be had. And the conversation often is not had in its entirety.
That's really a good point.
I just want to add, 6 months ago I sat in this room and I asked the same question you asked. And Marvin was emceeing the panel. And he said, what are you doing about it? Right. And I had to really think about that. Not a damn thing. As an HIV positive guy, I was not doing a damn thing about it. Now, I teach in the schools. I work here. I'm doing my part. We all need to do our part. And I credit that completely to our panel hosts tonight.
Thank you.
I want to piggyback on Christopher for just a minute, because I would add another thing to what he said. I think the whole issue of sexual behavior doesn't get addressed. I think the reason that it's so important for people to know about Truvada if you're negative, getting tested, getting on, and if you have HIV, getting on meds and becoming undetectable, is because I think we don't like to talk about this, but sexual behavior is very complex, and it's often not logical. We do things that we don't want to talk about. We respond sexually in ways that we don't want to tell other people about because we're kind of uncomfortable, because we realize that in spite of all the things we know, our sexual expressiveness can be highly impulsive. It can be highly spontaneous, can be driven by what's going on at the moment, much more than we'd like to admit. And so I think if you would agree with that.
I don't.
Okay.
People get HIV who practice the missionary position.
Right.
You don't have to do freaky stuff in bed to get HIV.
That's not what I'm saying.
No, but you have to be clear when you talk about sex.
Okay, but
you have to be clear about sex.
Let me finish.
You just can't.
Let me finish.
Don't shorten it up.
Yeah, let me finish.
I have sex all the time.
Yeah, I think that the reason people need to know about Truvada and need to know about becoming undetectable is that those are ways to defend yourself against yourself. And I think it's true. I don't think we're always fully in control of ourselves.
Can I think it's a beautiful conversation, but I think that we're missing the topic of conversation, and that's the HIV stigma within the black community.
Hello.
And I think that because from what you told me, the statistics, white people, they fine. Black people is what we're talking about right now. Black people is the root of the conversation of where we need to get to right now.
And we need to stop sugarcoating.
Exactly. We have to stop sugarcoating everything and sugarcoating our conversations, especially around homosexuality. Right. He was right when he pointed straight to homosexuality. We have to start going there. We have to go to the church. We have to go. We have to go there. We let this conversation keep going there.
And you're absolutely correct. But it's like we as black gay men, we need to start standing up and being black gay men. You can't have that conversation if I'm not open about who I am.
It's not. I have a problem with this being targeted around just black gay men because this is a.
Well, that's just my platform.
That's right. But what's beautiful about this conversation because I know most of you on the panel, and we're having a discussion, but it's kind of like service. It's not really getting deep. And the question that was asked of Marvin about how we can get in community with working with agencies, if we ask the black people that are working in agencies and know that it's work that needs to be done, if we don't stand together and hold these agencies accountable, it'll continue to happen. Right. So we have to come together as a people. So if we continue to be tokens, as I was told, that I was for being transgender, and I'll leave it at that. I had to take that slap in the face and think to myself, so you're not only a token for being transgender, but you're black as well. Right. So that was two step backs for me.
You got two checks.
And I pay attention to that. So we have to start holding government accountable as well.
Okay.
So we as a people, we have to cultivate those leaders. When you say when we ask this young man, what is it that you would do? We need to cultivate more leaders like him.
Right.
And we need to find a way to do that and put that in community. That's what needs to happen, because once we cultivate people like him, then we can disseminate that through the community.
Right.
And that's what needs to happen. We have to
We're gonna take some more questions, but just the one thing that I want to say in answering your question, that this conversation that we're having tonight have to leave this place. You should be having this conversation with your friends. You should be having this conversation with your family. And I'm not. I don't mean to point at you, but we don't. Okay, good. I'm glad that you do. I'm glad that you do. But I am a black gay man, and I haven't always. I evolved to who I am today, where it's comfortable with me. It's okay with me to have the conversation about HIV. That I can walk around with a shirt on that says positive. That is what normalizes it. That is what takes the stigma from it. And so we have to be willing to have those hard conversations in our community.
I feel like our platform, you guys are our platform, needs to be willing to have that conversation in our community as well.
Absolutely.
I love everybody on the panel, and I'm honored to know 3 of you and actually write about you guys all the time. But what I also want to see is the opposing view. I want to see those politicians and the Baptist church bishops or pastors on this panel as well, so they could hear what you guys are saying, so that we could hear their perspective and counteract that.
Let's move to some other questions.
Yeah, in the back, she's had her hand up for a long time. Okay. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
I guess I'm invisible.
No, we see you.
Go ahead.
We don't look too much to the behavioral sciences when we look at, what is causing the influx or not influx of, or the rise of HIV in the black gay community. I mean, we look at people, and people tend to date within their own community. Right. People tend to date what's proximity. People tend to date what's whatever. So when you have a high rate of HIV within a subsect of a community, of course, it's natural for it to spread amongst the community a lot faster than it would in any other community. So we need to really talk about expanding services east. Well, not east. I'm sorry. West.
Yeah,
West of the Turnpike. You want to talk about what we can be doing? We need to put these programs right where the communities are, and that's what I'm talking about.
And I wholeheartedly agree with that. A lot of times, I mean, they have had programs in other parts of the community that was for black people. Black people wouldn't go because, again, the stigma is so damn strong that we wouldn't go. So that becomes the problem. So we have to continuously educate the community about these programs are for you. So yeah, we can put the programs over there. We can put the buildings up. We can have people over there. Who's going to come through the door? That becomes a concern in terms of utilizing our tax dollars, putting programs over there. There was a health department on Sistrunk years ago. People didn't go. So therefore, they moved it because no one was going to that one. They would prefer to go over to 84th Street, or that they prefer to go over there because they didn't want people to see them going to the health department.
And let me ask you that, but how long ago was that? I mean,
that has not even been 10 years ago. That hasn't been that long ago.
What has changed in 10 years as far as how people look at gay people in the United States? I mean,
are those black people looking at gay people?
And I hear you.
Oh, right.
Okay. Right. All right. We're gonna Angie. We're gonna take another question.
Well, I want to speak on behalf of being a grassroots organization here in Broward County. I'm a nonprofit, and we focus on incest, molestation, and rape, and that's the underlying issue of all of this. Something happened that got that to happen. You become promiscuous, you get on the drugs, you do whatever that issue is. And the reason I'm here tonight is because being on the ground, in the face of the people, talking to them on a different level, meeting them where they at, they open up. Half of the people in my community are hurting, not because they are alcoholics or they're drug addicts or whatever. It's an underlying issue. Something happened when they were very young, and they had to keep covering it. Something, using something to cover that. And in doing so, a lot of them are positive because they choose to normalize the behavior, and they decided, okay, I'm going to be a homosexual. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be with men. I'm going to be with women. Whatever the case may be, the underlying issue is not being addressed. So I said, you know what, tonight I'll come so that when I have those conversations, I can say I know a Marvin Shaw. I know a Lorenzo. Oh, now I met you. You know what I'm saying? So we can't be everywhere all the time, but when you make connections in your community, another organization, smaller organizations need the help, can help you get the information out. We need people to pioneer some of this stuff, champion it. We need to have some people that look just like the people we're trying to reach that can get this information to them, to make them feel comfortable, because most of them are scared. Even myself, I'm negative, but I was ostracized by my family because my sister was positive. I lived a different life than my sister, so they felt like you should have been one. Why wasn't her? She was living a perfect life. She had a husband, she had kids, yada, and you were running all around. So why you didn't be the one chosen?
There you go.
And they were serious.
That's right.
It was really, really
That's
serious.
stigma. That's the definition of stigma.
That is stigma.
That's exactly
So
right.
I said to myself, for every chance I get to wake up every day, I want to make a difference in somebody's life, some kind of way. And I have to learn what that stuff is. I need to learn about HIV because I got friends with HIV.
Right.
I mean, I don't know who I may encounter tomorrow. But if I don't know how to talk to them, I don't know how to educate them, like she said, the lady on the front right there.
Right.
I need to know how to have that communication, and here is the perfect time for everyone that's being here to get that information.
Yeah.
Edric, did you have a question?
Over here.
Okay.
I'd like to say so. First of all, thank y'all for coming and sharing. But my understanding, like he was saying, we set this organization up, I mean, like, come and have something like this, but why we can't go in our community, why we can't demand the pastor to sit down and talk to us, listen to us. Like, seriously, why?
Please, let the preacher speak.
Can I answer that question?
Hold on, I ain't finished.
Pump the brakes.
I've been working in this field also, and doing outreach, and I'm the one that said they loose. Because when I step to them, I let them know they're loose. And then they need to tighten up. So I'm going to say they loose. And I'm so glad you didn't take that mic. I'm so glad you
Okay. Good evening. So as it relates to why we can't have this conversation in the community, on last month we had the first conversation in South Florida as it relates to homosexuality in the black church. I am too a member of Mount Olive Missionary Baptist Church, where Marcus D. Davidson is my pastor. And not only that, I am an active member of that church, but not only that, my story is different from yours, unfortunately.
Amen.
Because your story shed light because you're an African-American heterosexual woman. But because I'm a homosexual man, I was set down from the choir. But anyway, we had this conversation last month at Mount Hermon AME Church. I invited all the preachers, all the community. It was on Facebook for 3 months. Yeah. Tell me if your pastor came. Tell me if those pastors came. I had pastors lie in my damn face. Said, Eddie, I'll be out of town on revival. I passed by your damn church. Your car was right there. We are having these conversations in our community. The pastor of Mount Hermon, he didn't even come. His congregation didn't even come. So we're saying, let's have these conversations in the church. Let's.
No, Pastor Green was out of town. He was out of town.
Oh, he wasn't out of town?
Yes, he was. Pastor Green was.
No, he said he passed.
No, Pastor Green was out of town.
I'm not talking about Pastor
I know you're not. So I know who you're talking about. I know.
He's so shady. Nevertheless, we publicize this in churches. I went on Sis Trump to every church. Yeah. And it's so funny that these pastors, when I post something on Facebook, they're all up in arms on my post about it. But when it's time for me, I invited you to this open forum. When I invited your churches, your members to this open forum, went to all the churches from Mount Olive, New Hope, to Kojic, to whatever you name it. I went to Hole in the Wall church, big churches. I went. Right. And tell me if they were there. Nope. Tell me if they were there.
Nope.
No.
Nope.
And we had it in our community.
Nope.
In the church.
Yeah.
In the church.
In the church.
And we had it in the church.
Wow.
In the church.
Brothaspeak Podcast, where we talk about black LGBT issues and topics. Thank you for not banging on the table. Thank you. There's a reason also. I mean, the reason why a lot of people are not going to go, quite frankly, is because they also look at the deliverer, the person who's delivering the message. Sometimes we have to be strategic. I hate to tell you. Civil rights was strategic. Martin Luther King learned his lessons several times. And the things that you learn in the beginning, you don't do again. You may be more strategic about it. They use the power of the media. They use certain aspects to say, let's reach this, but this is how we got to do it. Sorry, y'all, it takes planning. If I cannot, the basic is the black gay man is not going to be the best person to deliver it, step aside for a little bit. Put your pride aside. Get that person over there, bring it to the forefront. You do it, and let's go forward. Be strategic. That's all it is. Just be strategic about it.
I'm just kind of tired of being strategic because, no, I'm just saying because it's 2017. Y'all need to talk about gay people being in church. We there. We sitting in your churches every Sunday. So, I mean, I understand being strategic in terms of some aspects, but if I'm in your face every Sunday, I'm paying my tithes, I'm giving you my tithe, my talent, and my treasure to your church, then I don't understand that. So, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
That's why I don't go.
Guys, this very same church we've been talking about invited.
Get out where you don't want, where you're not wanted.
That's the church we're talking about. That's the church I'm talking about.
Get out where you're not wanted.
First of all, when Al Sharpton was invited, he came. It was good. He showed up. Packed house. I'm sorry, bang on.
Go ahead and bang.
It was a packed house. You could not get gas in that room. And y'all know what gas I'm talking about. It was that tight. It was that tight. And you spoke that night. And somebody from family spoke. Some preachers were up in the front. They talked.
Right.
And one very wonderful, light complexion, white-haired, older minister spoke with such compassion about HIV. Okay? So, let's be real clear about this. People do come sometimes. It depends on, and Chris,
Right.
you were the one who triggered this. It is sometimes about the messenger. You know, you get, Beyonce to come, and maybe people will pay attention, or you get Snoop Dogg to show up, and people,
That's a different population.
But the deal is, those occasions do not lend themselves to the depth of conversation you need to get to in talking to people. We have to do thousands of these. Right. First of all, this epidemic is not news, people. It's over 30 years old. In most people's minds who are my age, this is some, excuse my language, some old doo-doo. We've been down that road. We done had that conversation 20 times. Miss McCrae said, I can't talk about it no more, baby. I done talked about it. I done talked to my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren. I'm done with it. Let them other people talk about it. And that's where we are right now. It is the other people who we need to get talking about it. And we're doing it because y'all are here. Y'all are here. And we are on social media. Yeah. They do talk about HIV on social media. There still are late night commercials about wearing a condom and the importance of that. There are still new documentaries and movies being made. Folks, they started talking about not smoking cigarettes and the dangers of smoking cigarettes in 1949. Yeah. 49. It wasn't until after the year 2000 when laws were written that restricted people's movements around smoking cigarettes that there was a serious decline in America around cigarette smoking. It is hard for people to break habits. It is hard for people to change behaviors. And so we cannot sit here and talk as if there's some kind of magic bullet that's going to turn people around. The same kind of negative behaviors that are being shown to HIV were shown to people with cancer in the 40s and the 30s. If you had cancer, your family didn't talk about it. You didn't talk about it. It was hushed. Right. People don't like to talk about things that they perceive as negative. It's just a reality. But we can't let them off the hook. Right. We can't. I tell everybody, I walk in the room and I say, as a black gay man, he does. You're going to know. He does. You are going to know. I've done it in the Congress too, just like you know, Fred. I mean, we have to do it. And Lorenzo is right. Every chance we get, we have to own our lives. Yes. Because if they're good enough for us to live it, then we should be proud enough to say it. And if you think being gay is bad, don't be gay. Be something else. Be something else.
Yeah, we had a question right before.
There's a gentleman over here.
Because in my original concept of what I was going to say, I was thinking, yes, we do have to be more strategic. But considering everything I've seen Black Lives Matter, I've seen all these other movements, I think, honestly speaking, we have to start hijacking media, hijacking everything that we can that you put out there. It's not a matter of being civil about it. We done did that. We did it regardless how long. It's about time we actually start really hijacking.
We should start doing the Donald Trump.
Oh my God.
Because he has been very successful at hijacking the media. Yeah.
Well, if you know like the history, of HIV movement, and you know about the ACTA and all of that, there was a lot of aggressive activism at one time.
We need that again.
We got one person here.
Okay, question.
I want to support this brother. I don't like the chapter. I want to support this brother idea about being strategic. My strategic idea would be just like they do on the Super Bowl. They advertise Beyonce halftime show just to get you to watch the football game, right? So what you do is you come up with an idea. That's just an example. You advertise Beyonce having a concert, and at the what you call it, the break, you start talking about HIV from gays.
We do that.
We do it. That would be a good idea.
We do that.
Yeah.
But we need the support of the heterosexual community.
Okay, you can get that.
Okay.
You got heterosexuals in here. I'm straight.
Good.
Hey, okay.
I'm a church person.
Okay.
I mean,
What church do you attend?
You just Black Memorial out of Pompano.
Okay. We'll call them.
You just have to branch out. You can't just go in certain spots. You can't go into the big church. You got to get to the church first.
Just say that.
What Mr. Bates was saying about how you're setting our ways, like trying to teach an old dog new tricks. We have to not attack, but reach the youth, the parents, teaching their kids the stigma, whether black, white, purple, gray, whatever it is. Because it's the youth that's going to be able to develop and change our future, not the elders and the people that were there. Because they are set in their ways. Some of them don't want change, and they're afraid of change. It's fear.
Yeah.
And I think bringing it to schools at a younger age, because I know where I went to school in a little town in Foster, Rhode Island, you didn't have a sex education class until high school, or maybe middle school. They didn't talk about the stigma with HIV/AIDS. They didn't explain it. You didn't know the history about it. So I've never been to the World AIDS Museum. It's my first time here, and it's very eye-opening hearing you guys talk about it, because I do fight for it when I can. And with that, even I went to cosmetology school in Lauderhill. When we did the HIV tests, because we have to be certified in that, amazing how many people did not understand it, couldn't pass the test, even though we're going through the class. And it's all ignorance. We just need to educate the youth to create a better future.
Thank you.
So I do want to say this, that Broward County has one of the most innovative, advanced HIV education programs out there, and in the Broward County school system, that middle school and high school students are being taught HIV. I have personally been in those schools. So has Lorenzo. So we're out there. We actually test kids. If you're 13 years or older, we can test you without a parent consent. So there's a very aggressive education going on in the Broward County school system. We're going to take one more question.
I want to thank everybody for sharing their stories. It's the first time I've been in a setting like this. I'm a PhD student that's very much interested in HIV risk and mental health. So I kind of wanted to touch on the stigma and how that plays a role in the mental health. If you all can speak on that. You were kind of touching on that a little bit, but you can speak on that.
I can give you not only my own personal experience, but the experience of many people I know that have that are HIV positive. I know a lot. Depression is really the first thing. Self-loathing. You feel dirty. You feel like, why? Like I shouldn't have. Or if I just, you second guess yourself over and over, especially when you're supposed to be well put together. Like, especially if a person like me, looks as if they have everything together, looks as always planning out, always strategic in their, and then out pops this. Even though you're strategic when you're going through the process. I literally was on autopilot when the process started. It was like, you got an ear infection. Oh my God. Your lymph nodes swollen. I'm going back to the doctor. What? Have you had an HIV test? Yeah, I get tested. What do you mean? Oh my God, you're positive. Oh, okay, what's next? Oh, here's these pills. Oh, okay. Start learning about it. Literally autopilot until boom, one day I was sitting in my apartment in Jersey and I just started crying deeply. I just started like completely breaking down. And it took me forever to build back up, because not only is coming out as a homosexual one part of it, but now you have to come out again. It's a deep process. So now you're getting to know yourself over again. Now you're trying to love yourself over again. Now you're trying to become comfortable with yourself over again. And around people, you think that you have this red scarlet letter written across your forehead, like everybody knows. Oh, they know why I was in Walgreens. Oh my God, they knew why I went to the bathroom just now. Oh my God, I'm not feeling well today. Is this the end? Oh, every day I get a call for it. I'm like, oh shit, this is the end. Oh God damn it, this is the end. Lord have mercy. But it's what you go through. And then as time progresses, this is 2017, so this is 10 years. Oh shit, decade. So it's been 10 years, and every year gets like I told you before, it's just like an afterthought. It's like whatever. And right now is the only time I'm even conscious. I have pulled back all that stigma and stripped it away so much that this is the only time I'm conscious that I'm even talking about it, is because I'm here sitting in front of all of you.
Right. Yeah. So I want to respond to that a little bit, because for me, growing up as a gay boy, as a gay child, I was an extremely feminine child, and being feminine in a black home is not well received. In fact, you can be anything in a black family, anything except gay. When I came out that I was gay, and this is very true. My oldest sister told me I would have preferred that you were a crackhead than to tell me that you were gay. So when I tell you, you can be anything in a black family except gay, that is very true. And so just the ridicule and the bullying and all of that consistently throughout your whole life, because for no other reason than you were a gay person. And so what happens a lot of times with people psychologically, when things are happening to them at a young age that they don't understand, you make up an excuse for it. So what I made up was that I wasn't a likable person. So now I'm dealing with HIV. So imagine, all of the stigmas that to deal with as a black person, as a black man living in America, and then as a gay black man living in America, and now you're adding the HIV to that. So there is. So now I want y'all to know I'm fine. I'm yeah.
All right, baby.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. But it has been a process. It has been a process to get to that place. And I think of men that are my age that haven't even gotten to the place where they're comfortable with being gay.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even begin to ask them to be open about their HIV status.
Excuse me, Marvin. So both you and Jamal are sharing about what it's like to be a gay black man. So let me break it down for you on what it means to be a sister.
Okay, now bring it.
Okay, to be a woman who has to depend. If you weren't raised to be independent and to know your worth as a woman, okay, so now you have to depend on others to provide for you. You have to depend on somebody for a roof over your head, to put food in your mouth, to put clothes on your back. Okay, then your priority, you are not even a priority in your own life. It is him. It is the kids. It is your parents. You are last on that list. Okay, and now you're talking about, now I'm HIV positive. Okay, so how do I tell this man who's been taking care of me that I have the virus? Is he going to leave me? Is he going to lose his mind and split my shit to the white meat?
Right. Okay, exactly.
Am I going to be out on my ass?
And your kids.
What about my children? What's going to happen with them? Then we have to worry about what society says, because I was listening to something just today, and they were talking about the least appreciated person in America. The least worthy person in America is the black woman. And Malcolm X said that.
Yeah.
So I hear what you're saying. I am a black woman who is positively living with the virus. I have raised 2 sons. One is married with 2 beautiful children. One is a same gender loving man.
Yes.
My worst fear for my son is for him to end up like me. But you know what? I asked my children early on when I was educating them, what would you do? And I didn't know my son was gay. I had no idea. I wish I had known. Maybe I could have, maybe things would have turned out differently, not in who he chooses to love, but in the way that he sees himself today. Because I support my children. I don't give a good goddamn. I will go to hell with gasoline draws on about those 2.
Yes.
In the same way that I am about living with HIV, I hold my head high. I teach my sons to be the same way. But I asked them, I said, what would you do if you met somebody and they were HIV positive and they told you? My youngest son said, Mommy, I would just love them and I would use protection. My oldest son said, Mommy, I would love them, but I wouldn't even care if I ended up positive because look at you. Wow. So I haven't heard anybody tonight talk about that being a reason that the numbers are so high. You see, we talk about the medication, the treatment adherence, and how good we're doing. We talk about all the benefits of Truvada. But what we're not talking about is the double-edged sword. Yes. Yeah, I look motherfucking good for 46 years old. I am undetectable. My T cells are 1,100. But my sons grew up seeing that.
Right.
So they think in their mind, it's okay, if I have unprotected sex and I become positive. I'm just going to take a pill and do just like mommy does.
Right.
So how do we address that?
All right, so Lorenzo's gonna respond to that, and then we're gonna wrap it up. And then
No, and you're right. I think one of the things that we don't talk about, because when I look at the advertisements for HIV medication, they are rock climbing, they're biking, they're canoeing, they're doing all this stuff, which is really, but they don't show the other side of it. I mean, early on when they were doing HIV advertisement, they used the scare tactics. They showed people that they were jaundiced. They showed people how you can get really sick with HIV, and we need to see that again, because a lot of kids, they're exactly like you're thinking. That's all they know. Young people now, they don't know the realities of how people have lived with HIV and how they died. They haven't seen that, and they do need to see that, because that's what we're lacking now. So because everyone thinks now, if I become HIV positive, I can pop a pill and it's all right. I'm back in the game. Hey, baby, I'm ready to do this. But see, the reality is, some people who become HIV positive, the way that they became positive, all the medications are not going to work. So therefore, they're not going to be able to pop a pill and be back in the game. So we have to really show the other side of it and talk about that also, because everyone's not going to have the same response to this medication as everyone else. There are those people that when they become positive and take that medication, it's not going to work. So therefore, they're going to continuously have a detectable viral load, not undetectable. It's going to be detectable. And they're going to go from HIV to AIDS. So we have to start to talk about that part of it as well. The reality is that's what some people are going to experience. It's not going to be the great, you're out rock climbing, you're out biking. It's not going to be that. It's going to be that you're in the hospital, you're on dialysis, you have all these other issues that you have to deal with because of HIV, and we have to address that as well. So that we have to talk about that part of it as well, and you're absolutely correct.
And this concludes our conversation with HIV stigma within the Black community. I hope this actually gave you a few things to think about, talk about, and go share with everybody else to bring it to your own communities. Again, this is Chris of Brothaspeak Podcast, signing off. Have a wonderful day.